They left me to survive alone in a foreign country at 17. But what they didn't know was that I'd be the one buying their house 9 years later. I could feel the sting of their laughter, the dismissive glances, as I boarded the flight to a country I barely knew. "You're on your own now," my father said, with a cold smirk, as if I were some kind of failure waiting to happen. But in those moments of humiliation, I made a silent vow. I'd show them. At 17, I had nothing. No connections, no money, just an intense fire to prove them wrong. It was hard, of course. Nights spent in my tiny cold apartment with just a desk, my thoughts, and a shattered dream. I couldn't call them for help. They had made it clear. I was on my own. I remember the first job I found in that foreign land. It barely paid enough to cover rent, but I pushed through. While they laughed and thought I was hopeless, I worked silently. Day after day, night after night. They didn't see the hours I spent learning new skills, the way I devoured books on business, finance, and self-improvement. I had nothing but time and a drive they would never understand. But here's the thing about silence. It's deceiving. They had no idea I was building an empire. They had no idea what I was capable of. And now, as I stand here with everything I've ever worked for, I can't help but feel that familiar rush of triumph. Pause. You won't believe what happened next. I'll tell you how I made them regret their decision. But before that, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe to keep up with the twist in this story. Just wait. You won't want to miss what happens next. They had no idea that my rise to success would come with a vengeance. The day I walked into my parents' house for the first time in 9 years, I was a different person. The man who had once been a lost teenager, abandoned and laughed at, was now standing tall, with confidence, power, and a reputation they could never have predicted. It was my mother's birthday, a celebration they threw every year to gather the family together. This time, though the atmosphere was different, I wasn't the broken boy they once knew. No, I was someone who had built something they could never even dream of. I walked into the house with a briefcase in my hand, dressed in a sharp suit, the kind of suit that said, "I've arrived." As I stepped through the door, my parents didn't even recognize me at first. My father, who had once mocked me for my aspirations, couldn't hide the shock on his face. My mother, always so proud of her perfect life, looked confused as she tried to place me. It took a few moments for them to realize who I was. "Sam," my mother's voice trembled. What are you doing here?" I could see the disbelief in her eyes. She didn't know how to react. She had left me in a foreign country, alone, thinking I'd never amount to anything. But here I was. I smiled, letting the silence fill the room. They had no idea what was coming. The years of hard work, the countless sleepless nights, all the sacrifices I'd made were about to come crashing down on them in a way they couldn't ignore. Without saying a word, I pulled out a document from my briefcase and slid it across the table. "This is the deed to your house," I said, my voice steady. Their faces went pale. They looked at each other, then back at me, struggling to process what I had just said. My father, ever the skeptic, tried to hide his shock behind a forced smile. "Sam, this is a joke, right?" he asked, trying to laugh it off. I leaned forward, my eyes locking onto his. "It's no joke. I bought it. Your house. It's mine now." The room fell silent. My mother gasped, her hands trembling as she looked at the document. The people who had once mocked me, underestimated me, had no idea how much power I had gained. But that wasn't the best part. Pause. You won't believe what happened next. It wasn't just the house. I was about to take everything they had. Stick around for the rest. Make sure you hit like, share, and subscribe. This story is only getting started. The look on their faces was priceless, like they had been slapped across the face. My mother, still holding the deed in her trembling hands, couldn't say a word. My father, the one who always saw me as weak, just sat there, frozen, staring at the document in disbelief. I could feel the tension in the air, the weight of my revenge settling in. But I wasn't done yet. "You think this is just about the house?" I asked, my voice cutting through the silence like a knife. "No, this is about everything you took from me." I could see my father's pride slowly crumbling. He had always been the one to push me down, to remind me how worthless I was. But now I wasn't the same scared boy who used to take his insults quietly. I was the man who had worked in silence, and now I had the power to make them regret every single time they belittled me. "Why are you doing this, Sam?" my mother finally managed to say, her voice breaking. "We were just trying to protect you. We thought you'd never make it out there." I shook my head, almost feeling sorry for her. She was the one who had told me I'd amount to nothing. She had called my dreams foolish, saying I'd end up on the street. But now I was the one who held all the cards. "It's too late for apologies," I said, my voice cold and final. "You never thought I'd make it, and now you'll see just how wrong you were." But then I saw something in my father's eyes. Desperation. He knew what was coming. He knew this wasn't just about a house or money. This was about revenge, about showing them that I had built something they would never understand. "You can't do this," my father whispered, his voice barely audible. But I wasn't listening anymore. I was done being the underdog. I had worked too hard for this moment. I had built something they could never tear down, no matter how hard. They tried. Pause. What they didn't know was that this wasn't the last twist. The real shock was still to come. I'll reveal it soon. But first, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You won't want to miss what happens next. The next move I made completely destroyed them. Just wait for it. The tension in the room was suffocating, but I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of a quick end. I wanted them to feel every second of it. The pain, the regret, the realization that they had no control anymore. I stood up slowly, making sure they both watched. Every move, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a second document. This time, it wasn't just the house. It was something far bigger, something that would crush them in a way they couldn't recover from. "Here's the real shock," I said, my voice low but deliberate. "I didn't just buy your house. I bought your company too." Their faces turned white, and I could see the panic creeping in. My father, the man who had once humiliated me for thinking too big, now looked like he was about to crumble. His empire, the one he had spent decades building, was suddenly out of his grasp. What are you talking about?" my father stammered, his confidence faltering for the first time in years. "You can't just take everything from me." I smiled. "Oh, I can. I did, and I'm just getting started." They didn't know it yet, but I had strategically bought up shares, outbid them on investments, and quietly taken control of every part of their business. The years of silent effort, the nights spent working without rest, had led me here, where I held the keys to everything they had built. "You've been blind, Dad," I continued, feeling the power in my words. "You thought you could push me aside, laugh at me, but now you're the one with nothing. You're the one who's been left behind." My mother sat in stunned silence, her eyes wide. She couldn't comprehend what was happening. And that's when I hit her with the final blow. "I know you think I'm cruel," I said, my voice growing colder. "But you have no idea what it feels like to be treated like a failure your whole life, to be looked down on. So no, this isn't just about revenge. It's about proving to myself that I'm stronger than you ever gave me credit for." The shock on their faces was enough to make me feel like I had won already. But I wasn't done. Pause. You won't believe what I did next. It was the final act that left them completely powerless. Hit that like button, share with others, and subscribe to make sure you don't miss the shocking end of this story. They sat there in disbelief, their world crashing down around them. My mother, the woman who had once told me to give up on my dreams, and my father, the man who had mocked me every chance he got, now realized they had underestimated me in the worst way possible. But it wasn't enough just to take their company, their home, or their pride. I had one final move left, something that would leave them completely broken. Unable to recover from the devastation I had created, I could see their minds racing, trying to figure out how they could turn this around. But it was already too late. You don't understand, do you? I said, walking slowly toward them. This isn't just about business or money anymore. This is about showing you that the years of humiliation, the years of me being nothing in your eyes, they've come to an end. I'm not the same person you left behind in that foreign country. My father, now desperate, tried to plead with me. Sam, please. This has gone too far. We're family. We didn't mean to hurt you. We were just worried. Worried? I almost laughed. No, you were scared. Scared of what would happen if I succeeded. Scared that I might prove you wrong. But now I'm not just proving you wrong. I'm taking everything you ever had. And with that, I revealed the final twist. I had made sure that all their assets were tied up in a massive debt that they couldn't pay off. I had outsmarted them in every way possible, using their own arrogance and greed against them. You'll never recover from this, I said, letting the weight of my words sink in. You've lost everything. My mother's eyes filled with tears, and for the first time in years, I saw her truly broken. She had been so sure of herself, so confident that I would never make it, and now all she could do was watch as everything slipped through her fingers. But for me, it was the ultimate satisfaction, not because I enjoyed watching them suffer, but because it was the final step in my journey of transformation. From the boy they had abandoned to the man who now controlled everything they had once taken for granted. As I walked out of the house, leaving them to face the consequences of their actions, I knew one thing for sure. I had won. I had proven to myself and to them that I was stronger than they ever thought possible. Pause. But what I didn't know at the time was that this victory would come with its own set of consequences. The things I had lost in the process. The things I had sacrificed to get here. Well, let's just say they would haunt me forever.